What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It is I, your host, Adam Perez, back once again with a brand new review as we're going to get into Supergirl Season 6, Episode number 12, titled Blind Spots. Can I be candid with you guys? I cried like 2-3 times in this episode. I truly did. I honestly was not expecting it. I will say this, because we will be getting heavy into this episode, and spoilers, beware. So if you have not watched this episode, please go ahead and do yourselves a favor. Just go ahead and let you guys know. Have your tissues ready if you have not watched this episode, or at least that's just certainly how it hit me. It's an episode that I really enjoyed, to be quite honest with you guys, and I do feel like, and again, I'll just continue to be candid because I'm just open like that with you guys. I do feel like maybe there is a portion of some people that maybe watched this episode, maybe felt a little bit uncomfortable or thought maybe they're bashing us with social issues again, sort of thing, or may not necessarily have cared for this episode. But for myself, I absolutely did. It's one of those things. First off, let me just say this. I love the fact that they truly gave Kelly just a great origin story. You know, it was pretty cool just seeing in this season, especially sort of the second half of this season, how they really have devoted a lot more time to the Kelly character. I mean, they've even established like characters that we've seen throughout this season already with Orlando and Joey, and seeing exactly how close Kelly has been with them and helping them get back on their feet and sort of help them sort of establish their life. So the idea that Supergirl's story is kind of playing alongside what Kelly's doing, I thought the idea, instead of trying to just fit sort of like all of Kelly's story into one episode and then boom, she's decided I'm gonna be Guardian. I do love that with Kelly, it's been a very slow burn and a very well thought out burn, and I've really enjoyed the Kelly storyline so far, because I think we saw it building up to this particular point. I mean, we knew we were going to be getting Guardian, but the fact that they took the time to tell that story and tell a very important story from the viewpoint of somebody like Kelly Olsen, man, I thought they did an incredible job. And I just think those first 2 episodes, because I think this felt very much like a 3-part origin story that we've had for Kelly so far, but I really dig the fact that they paid attention to it and really gave Kelly some shine. I'm not too familiar myself with the actress that plays Kelly, Ozzy Tesfaye, if I'm not mistaken, or Tesfaye. Ozzy Tesfaye is her name. I'm not too familiar with Ozzy personally, but I thought she really shined in here. I mean, they really had her doing a ton of emotional work and really having to kind of carry a lot of burden. I mean, I'm sure that's something that she carries around on a very regular and daily basis in her life. So I'm sure having to emote that probably came across very easy, but yet painful and stressful all at the same time, to just have to work through those emotions, because I'm sure some of those emotions and those feelings that she expressed were very much real. And so for her to be able to tap into that and really establish that for the Guardian character, you know, not to take anything away from James Olsen, because like when I think of James Olsen's Guardian, this is exactly what I envision that legacy to be like, exactly what James Olsen tried to do himself. And now that we've got somebody like Kelly that understands the importance, I feel like, of taking care of the community and the people on the street, you know, it's very easy to kind of get caught up in focusing on the people at the top to make change, right? And I feel like this is something that needs to get brought up in the sense of, like, you know, we all look at like the presidency, right? Like if we go out and we vote the president that we want, things are going to get better, right? But that's just scratching the surface at the end of the day. It's really like governors, mayors, more local council stuff, right? The idea of having a superhero that's on the ground and not only can relate but fight for those people, because I do think it makes it extremely evident in here, the idea that, you know, when it comes to the bigger superheroes and things like that, they have their eyes set on, you know, bigger villains, bigger threats. Not to say that that's not right, but that's how they sort of view it, and they don't understand the undertones of, hey, okay, we took out this bad guy, right? But is that really, I mean, granted, yes, it is making a change, not taking anything away from, you know, destroying big villains or anything like that. It is important, to say the least. But I think the idea of doing that all the time, you do forget that there are other people that don't have that same power and are still being put in really difficult situations in their lives where they just don't have that type of hope. And I just think the idea of what they've established with all the episodes that they've put Kelly in, some sort of issue that needs to bring awareness to. Shout out to the Breonna Taylor t-shirt that she was rocking to at the end. Say her name, you know what I mean? Like I absolutely loved it. But just the idea of what Ozzy was able to bring to Kelly this week, phenomenal. I honestly thought that she crushed it. And this episode was in fact directed, I believe, by David Ramsey. If I'm wrong, somebody go ahead and please let me know, but I feel like it was, even with him popping back up in here. I believe this might be his final appearance this season, if I'm not mistaken. But we'll definitely talk about Diggle here in just a little bit. I didn't mind the directing. I don't know if it was the editing that felt a little bit choppy, maybe not so much the directing. It felt a little bit sluggish or odd the maybe first 7 minutes of the episode, but then it really got its footing and just kind of took off from there. But I was really impressed, man. It's one of those things too where I didn't think this episode punched you in the face very much. Not to say that they were subtle about it, but I felt like they were very patient in trying to express sort of both sides of an issue, right? Like, because there is something that has to be said about the idea, like, just because you're white and maybe you're not aware, that doesn't make you racist. You know what I mean? Like, there are some people that maybe just don't understand or are blind to it just because of the fact that they don't live in that same world or see that same environment on a regular basis. So they're very much blind, but maybe they want to understand and want to help out. You know what I mean? And I thought this was a great, instead of like putting it in your face and saying you're the problem sort of thing, I love the idea that they express these conversations in a very a realistic way. And I don't maybe not even necessarily a realistic way so much, but how it should be, right? Like, I feel like this episode is a guide how to have those sort of conversations. And maybe if you don't know what to say, maybe something like this episode will help you to know what to say, to have those conversations, because they are difficult. They can be awkward at times. And like, just to go off on a tangent here a little bit, guys, bear with me, okay? It's, last summer, I had, after the George Floyd stuff and everything, and the Black Lives Matter thing, I remember having one of my friends reach out to me, Jennifer. We keep in touch and contact from time to time. Every year or so, might just check up on each other, if that. But she reached out to me and she apologized. About being oblivious, being blind, understanding that she's here for me if I ever need anything, asking me personally, what can she do sort of better to kind of help, to learn, if you will, right? And I really appreciated that. That was super impactful to me, because we've never had that conversation before, and it can be very tense for people that don't know how to approach those sort of things. And I felt like if there's anything that this episode taught me, or just expressed like lessons that we should all take away from it, it's just 3 simple words: empathy for each other, support, and action, right? The understanding of the struggle that somebody else is going through, being there for that particular person to kind of help them with whatever they're going through, and then taking action on your own, whether that be to learn about the situation more, or actually help improve your community, or do things that'll take action to help improve other people's lives, sort of thing. So I just thought those were 3 important words that kind of stood out to me in this episode, in the sense of empathy, support, and action. And I thought Kelly really expressed her frustrations, expressed her exhaustions in such a way that you're willing to listen, and so I also love the fact too, like, this episode for me, when it comes to Kelly, really solidified her sort of as her own character. You know what I mean? there's a sense of being in the room but not being in the room all the time that she talks about. The idea of like, hey, you know, you're there and you smile and you say what you need to say to kind of just live your life, but there's an exhaustion and an understanding that people don't see you in the room all the time. And that's what Kelly's been, very much a supporting character. Comes into the room, does her thing for an episode, and yada, yada, yada. She'll give support to her girlfriend, you know? But they're doing a great job in establishing Kelly as her character. But this episode, and I think this is what Supergirl does really, really well, is it establishes heroes. You know, if you had asked me 2 years ago, or however long it's been since Dreamer's been on the show, if she's going to be able to stand alone stand alone by herself as a hero, man, she's there now. And I think they've done the same exact thing, maybe just in a very short time frame, but for Kelly. The fact that Kelly expresses herself and her frustration, and really takes a stance and uses that frustration, and instead of being angry after she's got an opportunity to blow off some steam, right? Taking that same fuel and frustration and fire and helping to educate and express herself and her thoughts eloquently. And I just thought, by doing that, by standing up to the idea that, you know, you're not a superhero like these people are, you know, or that they haven't maybe necessarily looked at you that way, or sometimes you get ignored, sort of thing. I think the fact that she stood up for herself and stood not necessarily against everybody, but just stood up for herself, I think immediately in this episode really just put her in her own league as of right now, and really established herself sort of as the community superhero, the local superhero, which, you know, they're just as important. They're absolutely just as important. And so I love the message this week, guys. Like I truly did. And I think, you know, the idea of her talking about exhaustion, and the idea that, you know, Brainiac says, you know, when she asks, does it get better in the 31st century? And he's like, you know, it's something we still struggle with to that day, you know, that there are generational scars. And I think for myself, somebody that is, you know, I'm getting older now, you know, pushing my 40s here soon, seeing, you know, you can see big moments in our history where, yeah, there might have been some generational scars that took us back a couple decades, and we've had to climb back up and continue to push, right? The 60s civil rights movement, with everything that's been going on with January 6th, George Floyd, it feels very much like another generational scar that we have to now, taking us back 40 plus years. Now we've got to continue moving. And that mindset, right? That mindset causes that exhaustion that Kelly talks about, and the idea of people continuing to not get it or not fully understand, you know, they continue to be blind. I thought she had some great messages in there, expressed eloquently, not in a way to make you feel bad, but I think in a great way to help us understand how to have those conversations, you know, how to be able to, as a black man and a white person, or just a white person and any minority that understands the struggle, you know what I mean? It's not necessarily always a black thing. I mean, goodness, you know, Asians deal with hate in their own way in communities. I mean, you know, the you know, Irish for such a long time, Jews. I mean, it's, you know, I feel like every minority in some way has dealt with a struggle in some capacity, and sometimes it is hard to have those conversations, you know. I just thought they did a really great job in presenting both sides and how to make that work. So Kelly, best of luck. If I did have a complaint, if I can just throw in a complaint, if I did have a complaint, while I absolutely love the fight sequence of Guardian in the silver suit, I really wish we had gotten a great battle sequence with her with the color scheme, because it looked absolutely fantastic. It truly did, you know. But I will say, some great cinematography in here, some great shot selections for sure, man. The idea of her on the rooftop and stuff, very vigilante poses, right? Superhero landing, or just coming into the shot just looking great. They did some work. I just wish we had gotten a really dope fight sequence. But when you are fighting a fifth dimensional character, or at least somebody that manages to absorb those powers, you know, you're kind of limited when you're just a vigilante with no powers, you know what I mean? But I enjoyed it. I think, and I also enjoyed the fact that that's kind of where Diggle comes into this episode. The idea that we, if there's anybody that understands the idea of being a human amongst gods with people that have all these abilities, it's somebody like Diggle, and somebody that she can certainly relate to, somebody that understands, especially having to deal with somebody like an Oliver Queen, how to channel some of their frustrations into their, and turn it into fuel for them and motivation sort of thing. I thought he did a really great job in being in here also, to be honest with you. So great work. I really love just the team up that the two of them actually wind up having with each other. But he even wind up dropping the Jefferson Pierce quote, which I absolutely love. Don't be a hero to the people, be a hero for the people. That's so fucking Jefferson Pierce, is it not? Like, I'm so glad that Supergirl gave Black Lightning a shout out here this season, man, especially after how Black Lightning wound up ending. So the fact that we got a Jefferson Pierce quote, man, gave me goosebumps. Like, they did so many great things in regards to just connecting this to the overall Arrowverse, really establishing Kelly as a fantastic character, bringing home some great social issues, and again, expressing it in such a way that's not punching you in the face, but eloquently enough for you to really want to pay attention and hopefully maybe learn something at the end of the day. So I was actually really quite surprised. I thought the addition of Diggle in here really was fantastic. Couple honorable mentions that I definitely want to point out, because while Kelly does express her frustrations, if you will, to Supergirl in here, they've got a great couple of scenes. Supergirl expressing her frustrations for not seeing the other side of things, or the other picture, if you will. Alex really seeming to struggle with how to handle that, and I feel like if anybody's as real as they come when it comes to the awkwardness and the not fully understanding, I think Alex really kind of portrayed that. But they're going to be okay, just because of the fact that they're willing to at least have that conversation, even if the time's not right now. The fact that they're willing to have that conversation just goes a long way. But there are a couple characters that really stood out to me in here, guys. Like when people were not necessarily even listening to Kelly, the fact that I love that Dreamer listened to her, right? When they're scanning the apartments and nobody's listening to her, but Dreamer comes and she's like, here, take the scanner. You might necessarily, you might need this in trying to accomplish what you're doing. I love the fact that Dreamer listened, even though Alex certainly didn't. I also love the fact of seeing Brainiac being supportive of her also, and like knowing that this was eventually going to be her calling, and being sort of not only just one step ahead of her, but like 2 and 3 steps ahead of her. So again, I think it's one of those things where, not everybody in your life is against you. Not everybody is not listening. There are people out there that are listening and certainly do support you. And I thought that was pretty cool, that not all the Super Friends had just ignored her and given up on her. You know what I mean? I thought that was pretty neat. And I also thought it was interesting too, because watching that scene where Kelly's talking to them, and expressing some of her frustrations, when they pull the shot back and you see all the Super Friends on there, my mind went immediately to John, because he's a black man. The guy's an alien, but he's a black man. Okay, let's not front ourselves here. I'm really glad that they gave John that opportunity to talk with Alex. One, because they've already established such a great relationship. If anybody understands Alex's mindset, it's definitely John. But I love the fact that he addressed it in this episode, right? I mean, think about that for a moment. The fact that an alien from another planet, of all the races and cultures that you can choose to turn into, you purposefully choose a black man. And even despite the fact of all the struggle that you've personally have seen, you don't change it. You know what I mean? And I think that's super telling. And I love the fact that John even mentions the idea that, yeah, he's, he definitely feels as alien as he possibly can on this planet, which is crazy. He tries to be human to certainly fit in, but he still feels like an alien. And I mean, I just, the type of mindset and the type of sort of fortitude that's got to build for you, I think that really is something very telling about the John character. So I'm so glad that they even addressed that here in this episode. Other notes that I wanted to put in here, Kelly looks fucking great as Guardian. I wanted to put that in there also. The color is what was always missing from James Olsen's suit. If you guys have been following me during my A+ opinions days, ever since his debut, I've been screaming to the high heavens, please, can we get this man an upgrade? Can we add some color? But if they're going to give Kelly the colors, she looks fantastic in it. She looks great. Let me see here. Oh, also, John Diggle's last comment, worlds await, which I find interesting because of the fact that he's the one that actually ends up giving Kelly that motivation and that understanding of what type of hero do you want to be. And the fact that John brings up, I had a very important decision that I had to make. I've got a family, a wife, and things like that. And so the way that he expresses it, I feel like when he's talking to Kelly, for me at least, made it sound like, at least when I listened to it, it made it sound like he decided against taking it because he wanted to stay by Lila and the baby side and his kid's side. But when he says worlds await, is that him pulling a swerve on me, a swerve on us, and letting us know like, hey, maybe he does see the bigger picture of actually being a Green Lantern? If you want to protect your child and your mother sort of thing, maybe taking on that bigger responsibility is the best way that you possibly can do it. I don't know, but that's definitely what it seems to tease to me. But I'm kind of curious to know what you guys think at the end of the day. And then look, guys, if there was an eye roll moment that I had in this episode, it's the Lena Luthor stuff, guys. Listen, I'm curious to know what you guys have been thinking about the Lena Luthor situation. Do you dig the idea of like potentially her becoming a witch? Listen, look, they even teased it in this episode. The idea of her, harnessing the powers with the other witch and then making the flames come up and she freaks out and she winds up leaving sort of thing. I'm like, man, they're teasing it already. It did make me roll my eyes though at the fact that she leaves, right, to go back home, yet somehow the book that she left behind makes it back to her apartment before she even gets there. Like, damn, what type of mail did you use? Like, how many priority mail packages did you pay for to get this shipping? Like overnight sort of thing. Crazy stuff. So the fact that she beat her package there, the package beat her there, certainly made me laugh. But please, look, if you're gonna go down this list, I really don't want them to go down this path. I really don't. Please don't do this. Don't do this on the last season. It just feels forced to me, But look, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's see how they execute this. Let's see if they really pull the trigger on this or not. And if they do, let's see how they stick the landing. I'm eerie. I'm worried. But I'm not going to give my full judgment yet until I see how it plays out. But I am concerned. Because it just feels forced at this point. Like season 6, guys, really? We want to all of a sudden turn into it? Come on, guys. Not everybody on this team needs to be a hero. It's okay to be human and a scientist, The scientists are important. How many times has Lena Luthor helped you guys? She doesn't need magic tricks either. So that's just my worry. But overall, guys, look, I really love this episode. This was a really great one for me. Maybe sometimes in the performances, not the best, but I thought Ozzy really came through. I thought she certainly carried it for sure. And we already know Kyler Lee, Melissa, they all do pretty great. It's really, I don't know. Some of the supporting characters I think maybe could have a little bit work, honestly. But other than that, man, this episode crushed it for me. It truly did. But listen, these are just my A+ opinions. At the end of the day, though, I want to know yours. What did you guys think of Season 6, Episode number 12, Blind Spot of Supergirl? Let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below after this particular video airs, and we'll certainly go ahead and continue the conversation there, guys. But other than that, until next time, do me a big favor. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.